Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a little look. There you can see me. Hello. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. Okay. We should be live now. I apologize for the inconvenience, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes YouTube doesn't know what the fuck it's doing. We are getting right into the stream today. We are going to continue The Last Drive-In, Season 4 with Joe Bob, Episodes 3 and 4, because we have some catching up to do. I've been pretty busy recently, so this is the only time that I really had to film this stream, so that way we can get it up on the channel and whatnot. One thing I do want to talk about before we start the stream, though, there's something I would like to go over. Let me actually start up the live feed here on Twitch for everybody watching on Twitch, because we are streaming on Twitch TV and YouTube for all the people watching. Transition that. I apologize if there is any delay on Twitch, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes Streamlabs is a pain in the ass as well. Okay, so one thing I want to talk about before we get started with the stream here, I do have to use my laptop for this. Has anybody out there ever heard of the Golden Raspberry Awards? Okay, you can see my shirt there, ladies and gentlemen. It is Friday. All right, there's the hat. You check it out. I don't want to show too much of my hairdo right now. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen. There's the outfit. Has anybody out there ever heard of the Golden Raspberry Awards? They're also known as the Razzies. Now, the description is the Golden Raspberry Awards are a parody award show honoring the worst cinematic failures. Okay? So let me just go down some of the categories here that they give awards to at the Golden Raspberries. Works. These are from 1980, which was from the first award show, to present day modern times. So you have the worst picture, the worst director, the worst actor, the worst actress, the worst supporting actor, worst supporting actress, worst screenplay, worst remake, ripoff, or sequel, worst screen combo, and the Razzie Redeemer Award. Okay? Now, it's actually interesting to me because if you look at some of the movies that make the list, it might shock you. It might shock you. I'm looking for one more thing specifically here. The following nominees received at least 10 nominations. The following winners received at least 6 awards in a single year. Okay, so these are the most nominations for certain movies. Transformers: The Last Night had 10. Butterfly had 10. The Twilight Saga: Breaking Dawn Part 2 had 11. The Lonely Lady had 11. Batman and Robin had 11. Jack and Jill had 12 nominations. And Showgirls had 13. Now, for most awards, you have Striptease with 6 awards. The Lonely Lady, 6. Giggly with 6. Cats, 6. Bolero, 6. The Twilight Saga: Breaking Dawn Part 2, 7. Showgirls, 7 awards. I Know Who Killed Me, 7. Battlefield Earth with 7. And Jack and Jill with 10 awards at the Golden Raspberry. I just thought it would be interesting to start the stream off like this, because, again, some of these surprise me. If you actually look at the following people who have received at least 10 nominations overall, and these are for the worst actor, actress, what have you. You have Arnold Schwarzenegger with 11 nominations, which completely fucking blows my mind. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger as an actor and a person. So 11 nominations for Arnold Schwarzenegger. Madonna, Jennifer Lopez, and Ben Affleck all have 12 nominations. M. Night Shyamalan, who's a director, 13 nominations. Michael Bay, another director, 14 nominations. Eddie Murphy, 15 nominations. Kevin Costner, 17 nominations. Tyler Perry, 21 nominations. Adam Sandler, which also surprises me because I love my Adam Sandler movies. Um, Sometimes I prefer Adam Sandler over Jim Carrey, even. Adam Sandler has received 39 nominations, and Sylvester Stallone has received 40 nominations. So it's kind of a shock to me that Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone are both on that list when, honestly, I would consider them some of the biggest 80 action movie stars of all time. Um, but the following winners received at least 5 awards overall. M. Night Shyamalan has 5 awards for the worst director. Eddie Murphy, maybe not even just the worst director, maybe even just like worst movie. And, these are all the categories that he's won in. I know it sounds strange to say that you win an award for the worst of something, but that's what the Golden Raspberries is all about, and that's why I wanted to discuss it here on the stream. M. Night Shyamalan, 5, Eddie Murphy, 6, Kevin Costner, 6, Madonna, 8, Adam Sandler, 9 awards, and Sylvester Stallone with 12. He is the leader for, I guess, the worst actor or worst movies that have ever been made. Now, if we go to the first ever award ceremony at the Golden Raspberries here, you will see some surprising names on there. Okay, now in 1980, they actually considered Friday the 13th one of the worst movies of the year. The original Friday the 13th. Again, this is the one without Jason Voorhees. He doesn't make an appearance until the end of the movie. Sipping on some Coca-Cola, chat. You already know the deal. Stanley Kubrick with The Shining, and honestly, The Shining is considered one of the greatest horror movies of all time. So for that to even receive a nomination is kind of preposterous to me. See here, just going down the list. They also have Betsy Palmer for worst actress in Friday the 13th, the original. Worst supporting actress, Betsy Palmer, Friday the 13th as Mrs. Voorhees. There's a lot of surprising ones for sure, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why I wanted to cover this. I'm not going to read off every single one, but if you want, you can go back and see what I'm talking about for yourself. Now, at the second award show, we'll have to cover a lot of years here. It looks like the worst picture was Mommy Dearest. Tarzan the Ape Man was also nominated. Worst director, Michael Cimino, Heaven's Gate. Linda Blair got a nomination for worst actress in Hell Night. I mean, some of these are honestly just kind of mind-blowing to me. And that's what happened in 81 or 82, it looks like. So the award show took place in 82. For the third consecutive year. There's definitely some standout ones, though. Like, when you actually take the time to read through them, like I said, for me, it's just crazy that they would even consider some of these nominations. Arnold Schwarzenegger, worst actor for Conan the Barbarian. I mean, that's also kind of crazy because Conan the Barbarian really kind of solidified Arnold Schwarzenegger as an actor. That's what I mean. Like, if it wasn't for Arnold Schwarzenegger playing in Conan the Barbarian, who even knows if he would have been able to do any other big movies in the 80s? You know what I mean? So, Amityville 2, Rutanya Elda, worst supporting actress, Dylan Cannon in Death Trap, It's just crazy, honestly, ladies and gentlemen. Like when you look through some of these nominations, I'm surprised I haven't really heard Joe Bob speak about any of these. Um, you'd think that he would. So now we're in 84 at the fourth Golden Raspberry Awards. Brian De Palma, worst director for Scarface. I mean, come on. Brian De Palma, worst director for Scarface. Are you fucking kidding me? We all have seen Scarface. We all have watched that movie. And honestly, it's a beloved movie for many, gangster film fanatics. Linda Blair again received a nomination for Worst Actress. Lou Ferrigno, Hercules. John Travolta, Staying Alive. I mean, these are honestly just kind of fucking crazy to me. Like, I'm surprised more people don't know about these. Because this is fucking ridiculous. So now at the fifth Golden Raspberry Awards in 85, Brian De Palma nominated again for Body Double. Cannonball Run 2 was nominated for Worst Picture. Sylvester Stallone won the award for Worst Actor in Rhinestone. Jerry Lewis, Slapstick. Tanya Roberts. I mean, this is just crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to the next year. This is how I'm going to start off the stream here. We will get into our watch along with Joe Bob very shortly, but like I said, I cannot believe some of these nominations. These are fucking crazy. In 86, at the 6th Golden Raspberry Awards, they nominated Rocky IV for the Worst Picture, but the winner was Rambo First Blood Part 2. So Sylvester Stallone got nominated for 2 of his movies and also nominated for Worst Actor Sylvester Stallone in Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Rocky IV. Wow. Al Pacino in Revolution, John Travolta in Perfect, Linda Blair won the award for Worst Actress in Night Patrol. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. Tanya Roberts in A View to Kill. They definitely have their criticism a little wrong to me, honestly, because, as I've said, some of us have honestly seen all of these movies. Does that mean, they're the best movie of all time? Probably not, but, they definitely hold up still to this day, some of them. Sylvester Stallone in Cobra for Worst Actor. We'll move on to the 8th year here. Sylvester Stallone in Over the Top. Sharon Stone. Alan Quartermain and The Lost City of Gold. 9th. The 9th award show that they ever did, which happened in 89. Rambo 3, they nominated for Worst Picture. They gave Sylvester Stallone the award for Worst Actor in Rambo 3. Tom Cruise in Cocktail. Dan Aykroyd in Caddyshack 2. Is definitely crazy to me, ladies and gentlemen. It is definitely crazy to me. We'll go through a few more here, and then we'll get into our watch along, because I don't want this to take up too much time. But it is honestly just crazy. The Karate Kid Part 3. The winner for Worst Picture was Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Roadhouse was nominated as one of the worst movies of all time. The Worst Actor winner was William Shatner in Star Trek V as Kirk. Sylvester Stallone in Lockup, and Tango and Cash, Patrick Swayze in Next of Kin and Roadhouse, Heather Locklear in The Return of the Swamp Thing. I mean, honestly, guys, this is absolutely crazy to me. And again, you guys can all go look at these for yourselves. It's online. That's how I'm viewing it. This is now the 11th Golden Raspberry Awards in 1991. Rocky 5 was nominated. Jesus, man, they absolutely hated the Rocky movies. I don't know what the fuck was going on with them. Sylvester Stallone in Rocky 5 nominated for the Worst Actor. Worst Actress, Bo Derek, Ghost Can't Do It. Worst Supporting Actor, Donald Trump cameo as himself in Ghost Can't Do It. So Donald Trump received an award for the Worst Supporting Actor. Oh my god. Julie Newmar in Ghost Can't Do It. Worst Director, Brian De Palma, The Bonfire of the Vanities. Avildsen for Rocky 5. Worst Screenplay, they nominated Rocky 5, Ghost Can't Do It. Oh my god. Let's go to the 12th award show. This was in 1992 for the 12th one. Sylvester Stallone and Oscar, Worst Actor. Kim Basinger, The Marrying Man. Madonna as herself in Madonna, Truth or Dare. Demi Moore, The Butcher's Wife in Nothing But Trouble. Dan Aykroyd in Nothing But Trouble. John Travolta in Shout. I mean, guys, this is fucking... Julia Roberts in Hook as Tinkerbell. On Tinkerbell? Dan Aykroyd for Nothing But Trouble. I love Dan Aykroyd. I think Dan Aykroyd is a fucking great actor, honestly. I'm telling you, they absolutely had their criticism wrong. Let's go to the 13th one. We're running at about 20 minutes now, so I will get started with the watch-along here soon. Kevin Costner in The Bodyguard. Sylvester Stallone won the award for Worst Actor in Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Jack Nicholson in Hoffa and Man Trouble. Danny DeVito in Batman Returns as Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin, for Worst Supporting Actor. Holy shit. They didn't even like Danny DeVito in Batman Returns? Are you fucking kidding me? The Worst Director, Danny DeVito for Hoffa. Seltzer for Shining Through, that won the award. Worst Screenplay, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, written by Blake Snyder, William Osborne, and William Davies. Let's go to the 14th. Like I said, we're running on about 20 minutes now, so we will get started soon here. But these are just fucking... Some of these are just absolutely insane to me. William Dafoe in Body of Evidence. Arnold Schwarzenegger in Last Action Hero. Janet Jackson in Poetic Justice. Demi Moore in Decent Proposal. Sharon Stone in Silver. My God. Worst Director, John McTiernan for Last Action Hero. All right, we'll go to the 15th one and we'll end it on that, because like I said, guys, you can check out some of these if you want, but I just could not believe what I was fucking reading when I seen this shit. Worst Actor, Macaulay Culkin in Getting Even with Dad, The Page Master, and Richie Rich. Sylvester Stallone in The Specialist, Bruce Willis in Color of Night and North. Kim Basinger in The Getaway, Uma Thurman, even Cowgirls Get the Blues, Dan Aykroyd in Exit to Eden, William Shatner in Star Trek Generations, Kathy Bates in North. I mean, honestly. All right, we're gonna end it on that. We're gonna go back to the stream here, and we'll start up our watch along. But that is just fucking crazy to me, honestly. How some of those could even be nominations or put up there for the Golden Raspberry. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The last drive-in with Joe Bob. We're doing episodes 3 and 4 today. Joe Bob is going to be talking about Q the Winged Serpent and also a movie called Society. So hopefully you guys all enjoy the watch along. Once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. It is very early here in Buffalo, New York, but this is really the only time I could find to do this.
When you enter a drive-in, especially when you're late for the movie, what's the number one courtesy move you're expected to make, and if you don't make it, guy's name Lonnie might just beat the crap out of you? Turn off your headlights, right? There's nothing worse than somebody's high beams dancing around on Vin Diesel's face. Or worse yet, blinding everybody in your car because somebody drove onto the lot 20 minutes late and they didn't know how to cut their lights. Because believe it or not, that's the excuse they make when they get caught and they have their sweatshirt pulled up over their head and we're ready to pummel them with tire irons. I don't know how to cut my lights. They come on automatically. My car won't drive in the dark with the lights off. It's not my fault. BMW makes the cars this way. Well, you know what, Mr. Audi man, Mr. Mercedes dude, Mr. Lexus big shot? We know a way to put your headlights out of commission for the rest of the night. You can drive all the way back to Fort Worth that way, and then maybe next time you'll figure it the fuck out.
Joe Bob ain't with all that Audi shit. Joe Bob ain't with all that Mercedes shit. We just muted it here for the time being just so we also don't get copyright stricken from the music, just in case. Just got to be safe out there, ladies and gentlemen. But good morning. Hopefully everybody is doing okay out there. Tonight, I'm going to be watching SmackDown, probably also going to continue our Madden series where right now we're doing a simulation in franchise mode trying to win the Buffalo Bills a Super Bowl. So I do have that on my schedule for later today. Tomorrow, the Buffalo Bills are playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, two of my favorite teams, going at it. It's going to be like a little bit of a later game. I believe they're going to play at around 7 p.m. here in Buffalo, New York. Or I think they're playing in Pittsburgh, actually. I still have to check on that.
You know, I was going to go grab a power bar to get some energy to get me through the rest of the night. And it says on the power bar, gluten-free. So now I don't know if I want it or not. In fact, the next person who tells me he's gluten-free, I'm just going to kick you right in the gluten. But I was at this Mexican restaurant in Vermont. Okay, right there, my mistake. Mexican restaurant in Vermont. Why did I do that? But they had gluten-free enchiladas. I mean, really? There's no such thing as gluten-free enchiladas. If it doesn't have gluten in it, it's not an enchilada, okay? I'm Joe Bob Briggs. I'm sorry. I'm here with Darcy, the mail girl. Feel free to take advantage of her good nature and her access to every variety of social media if you want to get in touch with us tonight. This is our second week on Shudder, and we hadn't been canceled yet, so something may be wrong. But the next movie is actually one of my favorite movies of all time, Q the Winged Serpent, starring one of my favorite directors of all time, Larry Cohen. And we're going to drill down into the background story of the making of the best movie in history about a flying Aztec lizard. So,
one of Joe Bob's favorite movies of all time, ladies and gentlemen, Q the Winged Serpent.
Gluten-obsessed terrorists. But I mean, really. I mean, it's the word itself, you know? As soon as people hear the word gluten, they think, that sounds like a longer, more serious version of glut. There's a glut of food involved. It's going to make me fat. But it also sounds like glutes. You know, the shortened version of gluteus maximus, the favorite word of the chippy fitness trainer, you know. Okay, guys, I want 3 sets of barbell hip thrust lunges because we're working those glutes today. So it makes you think it's going to make my ass fat. And then there's the fact that if you change the long U to a short U, gluten becomes glutton, which makes you think, I got to get rid of all the gluten or else I'm going to spontaneously combust like one of those 600-pound guys who have to be airlifted out of their trailer house by Richard Simmons. Plus, any word that sounds mysteriously German might have come from a movie about the Third Reich. You know, Das Rush Watchalong hat kein Gluten, which means Hitler is going to send all fat asses to a concentration camp or something. Yeah, I got your gluten right here, dude. Anyhow, cue the winged serpent. This is the heartwarming story of a little pissant piano player who finds a giant Aztec flying lizard in the belfry of the Chrysler Building in New York. I think it's a belfry. I think you call it a belfry. What's a belfry? Anyway, the part at the top where pigeons make it disgusting. And he's also a recovering junkie and a wife beater and a scaredy cat small-time criminal. And he's the hero of the story. And he holds the city hostage as the cops try to find out who's carrying out ritualistic sacrifices downtown by ripping the hearts out of willing victims, and also why rooftop sunbathers are getting their heads chomped off. One of the most original horror flicks, monster flicks, and police procedurals ever written or directed. So let's take a look at those drive-in totals. We have 18 dead bodies, 2 dead monsters, 2 breasts,
2 breasts,
roll, heads fly. In fact, this may be the only movie ever made where most of the heads that get cut off go up instead of down. 1 motor vehicle accident, 1 heist, skinned alive body flaying, multiple bloody skeletons, ritualistic chest carving with heart extraction, 1 beat down by goons in leisure suits, bikini model munching, construction crew chomping, blood rain on the Upper West Side, carcass pigeon feasting, multiple helicopter giant flying lizard POV camera angles, gratuitous bikini girl push-ups, gratuitous mime, gratuitous gargoyle montage, machine gun foo, Driving Academy Award nominations for Michael Moriarty as the cokehead jazz musician turned jewel thief turned blackmailer of the city of New York in possibly the finest performance of his life for saying, I'm just asking for a Nixon-like pardon. David Carradine as the cop who spends all his time interrogating anthropologists at the Museum of Natural History and Columbia University and having sex with his wife on top of books on the Aztec pyramids. Candy Clark as the long-suffering wife of Moriarty, who answers his evening greeting of, get me a drink and shut up, with, the next time you hit me, I'm going to break a lamp over your head while you're asleep. Richard Roundtree is the old-fashioned cop who likes to slap suspects around and wants to just rough up Michael Moriarty and get to the bottom of it. Malachi McCourt as the police commissioner, the underappreciated Carradine brother, Bruce Carradine, for saying, I am the plumed serpent. I fly and I crawl, earth and air. I have fallen, but I will rise again, which means, I don't know, absolutely nothing. And of course, the great Larry Cohen, the writer-director. Best movie ever made about Quetzalcoatl, the feathered flying serpent. 4 stars, Joe Bob says.
4 stars from Joe Bob. One of his favorite movies of all time.
Just woke up and turn on the TV. And if it's a Larry Cohen movie, you instantly know it. I don't know what it is.
He loves Larry Cohen.
Have a certain look and feel. They're very bright, first of all, and the characters talk in this rhythm. It's just unmistakable, no matter what kind of movie it is. My second favorite Larry Cohen movie is It's Alive. There's only one thing wrong with the Davis baby. It's alive.
So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Getting the review from Joe Bob started. First segment break, 21 minutes.
Well, one thing about a Larry Cohen movie, he never bores us. We're 20 minutes into Cue the Winged Serpent, and we've had headless men, confused cops, sexual harassment, peeping toms, heist planning, bodies flayed alive, helicopter shots all over New York City, blood raining down on Upper West Side pedestrians, Michael Moriarty playing jazz piano at the bitter end with David Carradine listening, an action sequence that includes a jewelry store robbery, a traffic accident, a lost MacGuffin, a Puerto Rican a cat and mouse chase scene inside the Chrysler Building, a giant monster egg, a pigeon attack, a bloody skeleton, and an escape for our unlikely hero. Larry Cohen is one amazing writer, and of all the things he's written for both television and film, he's only directed a few of his own works, and that's because normally when Hollywood buys a Larry Cohen thriller, they pay him as a writer more than his entire budget for the movies he makes himself. There's an Italian restaurant on Melrose Avenue, and occasionally Larry Cohen and Robert Forster and Fred Williamson and every tough guy character actor in Hollywood will gather there, usually on a Tuesday night, for a spaghetti feast. It's a New York style place. It's got a piano bar, and Larry evidently knows every character actor in the world. The late Ed Lauder used to go there. Frank Gorshin used to go there. Henry Silva used to go there. Frank Pesci, Frankie the Pesh, you know. The only woman I ever saw there was Sally Kirkland. But Larry Cohen loves character actors. Even his stars are character actors. And the funny thing about these gatherings, which they still have occasionally, is that they have an open mic and a piano. So these tough guy killers with the mafia faces, they all want to be musical comedy stars. So you look over and they're suddenly up there singing, "All of me. Why not take all of me?" And anyway, Larry loves character actors. He loves to hang out with character actors. He loves to use them. He has quite a few of his regulars in Q the Winged Serpent, but especially Michael Moriarty. This was the first movie he made with Moriarty, but he would use him 4 more times in The Stuff, Return to Salem's Lot, It's Alive 3, and an episode of Masters of Horror called Pick Me Up in 2006. And Michael Moriarty is apparently not an easy guy to work with. So, back to the movie. Larry Cohen is the only guy I know of who, you know that first scene that takes place at the Empire State Building, right? But it's a minor scene, you know. In fact, the window cleaner actor, that's his only movie role. That's William Pilch. And his day job was window cleaner at the Empire State Building. So Hollywood uses the Empire State Building as a symbol of New York, you know. Larry Cohen uses the Empire State Building as a prop for his opening scene. He goes for the never-before-used Chrysler Building for his monster, and I don't think the Chrysler people even appreciated it. They weren't running around going, "Larry Cohen chose us for a monster movie. Larry Cohen chose us," you know. And they needed help at the time. Remember when the government bailed out Chrysler? You know, the government just printed some money, handed it over to Chrysler, $2 billion. You know, they needed a monster movie tie-in, but did they think so? No, they were worried about Larry messing up their property. That's why they went bankrupt in 2009. I think the Italians bought Chrysler. I can't remember. Chrysler is a company that invented the PT Cruiser. I rest my case.
Chrysler, also a staple in Detroit, Michigan. Joe Bob, though, loves his Larry Cohen movies. One of his favorite writers and directors.
One of many great Michael Moriarty scenes in this movie where we find out Jimmy is both a junkie and a guy who hits women. We already know he's a small-time crook, and somehow we know that he's going to screw up everything he touches. Thanks to not one but 2 famous cops on the case, Richard Roundtree and David Carradine. So the reason David Carradine is in this movie is that he and Larry Cohen were old Army buddies. They were both stationed in Eustis, Virginia, which is in Newport News, and they were supposed to be stevedores, but somehow they got assigned to work for the chaplain. So Larry's job was to write the radio program for the chaplain every week. Protestant chaplain, Jewish writer. I have no idea how that works. And David Carradine's job was to paint murals in the chapel. And then the 2 of them managed to get assigned to an entertainment unit that staged a military version of the Broadway musical Once Upon a Mattress. And they took that all over the United States, performing at military bases, and those experiences turned into a lifelong friendship. So fast forward many years, and Carradine is in France, and Cohen sends him a telegram that just says, "Show up on June 14 in New York with clothes for a New York detective." And so Carradine didn't ask what it was. He had no idea what movie he was doing. He just obeyed the telegram and came back to the States. And when he got to New York, he finally read the script and he said, "Oh my God, a monster movie? Please, I don't do that stuff." But he made the commitment, and that same day he walked over to see what they were shooting. And it was the scene where Michael Moriarty is auditioning at a Bleecker Street bar called The Bitter End, and he's playing some kind of crazy jazz piano. And so Cohen wrote Carradine into that scene, and so from then on he was locked into the role. And then, of course, Richard Roundtree. Cohen knew Richard Roundtree from his days doing great black exploitation movies like Hell Up in Harlem and Black Caesar. So we got two great detectives sort of working at odds with one another. One is working the traditional New York cop way. That's Roundtree. He wants to just beat up the suspect until he forks over the information. And the other is going around interviewing experts on Aztec religion. You know, now I'm not sure how intensely Larry Cohen had studied Aztec religion before he wrote this, but of the two interwoven plots, the ritual sacrifice plot and the giant bird in the belfry plot, the giant bird gets all the screen time, and the chest carving creates some moments of, wait, why are they doing this? So anyway, but I'm sure it's exactly the way they did it in 15th century Mexico. So back to the movie. Larry is fun, you know, unlike David Cronenberg. You know, have you ever heard of David Cronenberg's statement that because he's a scientist and an atheist, he won't put anything supernatural in a horror movie? No fun, right? It's not grad school, David. It's the movies. Jesus.
Moving right along with the watch-along. Cue The Winged Serpent, one of Joe Bob's favorite movies. Next segment break, 45 minutes in.
You have the right to remain silent, so shut the fuck up. Larry Cohen loves New Yorkers. He's actually from the Bronx, and so he knew how to shoot New York. New York in the 70s and early 80s was still gritty and more photogenic than it is today. Two of my favorite characters are the goons in leisure suits who come to get the jewel heist money from Jimmy. Those are classic Larry Cohen characters. John Capodice and Tony Page. John Capodice is the beefy one in the leisure suit, and Tony is the one with the mustache. Tony, it's sad, he was a really good actor. He died of cirrhosis of the liver less than a year after he made this movie. So, Cue the Winged Serpent was written in 6 days. And that's because the movie only happened because Larry Cohen got fired from another movie called I, the Jury. I, the Jury is a crime drama starring Armand Assante and Lorene Landon. And Larry had adapted the Mickey Spillane novel, so he was hired to direct it in New York. But he eventually quit the job. He had started putting the movie together. People weren't getting paid, and he could see that the producers were running out of money. So he checked out of that project, and he thought, well, I already put a crew together. Let's see if we can't do something interesting. So he stayed in the same hotel where I, the Jury was based. He called in favors from actors. He actually cornered Michael Moriarty in a restaurant and asked him to read the script. And then they shot the thing in 2 weeks. And it came out before I, the Jury came out, and it made a whole lot more money than I, the Jury. All right, back to Quetzalcoatl.
Quetzalcoatl.
And by the way, the first name you see on this movie is not Larry's name, it's Sam Arkoff. That's the great exploitation producer of the 50s and 60s and 70s, who didn't really contribute anything except Larry needed distribution, so he made a deal with Sam. Sam Arkoff, though, was amazing. He died in 2001 at the age of 83. And 1 month before he died, he was at a party with a friend of mine, and he was saying, you know, these gay movies are really catching on, aren't they? I think I'm going to make a homosexual film. But he wanted to know what was more commercial, gay guys or gay girls? Or could you do both? He was plotting out the elements, planning his next project. That is a drive-in kind of guy.
Next segment break, 1 hour and 1 minute.
That is one of my favorite scenes in the history of the world. The scene where Michael Moriarty as Jimmy Quinn starts out sulking because they don't believe him, and then gloating as he gives them information, and then insufferable as he describes what his terms are for giving up the location of the monster, then taunting everybody, including the commissioner, dictating the book and movie rights because he wants the glory, and then that wonderful moment where he lashes out at Richard Roundtree, and you see tears through his anger because of the frame-up when he was 19 years old. And we know from the earlier scene that he hates to cry. He can't stand to cry. So great writing, great acting. Larry Cohen takes a kind of not credible idea that this little punk could dictate a deal to the city of New York, and he makes it credible. Here's an interesting fact. If Larry continues to write scripts until the year 2020, he will have produced scripts in 8 decades. because he sold some television scripts to Kraft Mystery Theater when he was still a teenager in the 50s. He got his start in Hollywood and really mostly in the early 60s, writing episodic television. And then he created several major series, including The Invaders, Coronet Blue, Custer. He always liked Westerns and cops. I think the first movie he wrote was Return of the Magnificent Seven, which was a big studio Yul Brynner thing. But I think the best thing he did in the 60s was a series he created called Branded. Chuck Connors, as a West Point graduate who's literally drummed out of the U.S. cavalry for cowardice. They would always break his sword and rip the epaulets off his uniform in the opening scene. And then he spends his life trying to redeem himself while protecting the memory of the general who was the real coward at the battle where Connors was court-martialed. But the general was senile, so he had an excuse. Anyway, Larry was always known for putting political stuff in his scripts, like the scene we just watched where Michael Moriarty says he wants a Nixon-style pardon. And this goes back to the very first movie he ever directed, Bone. Excellent little black comedy starring Yaphet Kotto that takes down racism, Beverly Hills, reverse racism, and as usual is totally politically incorrect. Larry has directed about 20 films, but the last one was Original Gangstas, which was 23 years ago. I want to mention one more actor before we go back to the movie. Malachi McCourt as the police commissioner, great presence. He's the brother of Frank McCourt, the guy who wrote the bestseller Angela's Ashes. Okay, time to kick some monster ass in Cue the Winged Serpent. The other actor we should mention is Candy Clark, best known from American Graffiti. And then she was Buffy's mom in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She did a great job here among acting giants. It's not easy to play Michael Moriarty's love interest. Of course, it's not her first odd relationship because she dates Terry the Toad in American Graffiti. Terry the Toad, who also became a horror director. What's Terry the Toad's real name? We'll Google that and get back. Charles Martin Smith, director of Trick or Treat. Am I a fount
Director of Trick or Treat.
Or what? I'm either a font of information or a fount. But either way, I spew it out.
Okay, next segment break, an hour and 14 minutes.
They really did tear up the Chrysler building when they made this movie. Larry Cohen had noticed that top floor, and he thought, great place for a monster. And when he first asked the building if he could film there, they turned him down. And he kept asking and raising the price, and eventually they agreed to let him go up there if he paid them $15,000. Now, what they did not know is that he didn't just mean the top floor, he meant the stuff above the top floor. And he took everybody with him, the camera crew, actors, extras. They all went up that skinny ladder with the equipment. And so they all ended up 77 floors above the street with no guardrails, no windows. That thing is just open to the air. But he gets a great effect out of it, especially for a movie that just cost $1.2 million. I think half of the 1.2 was spent on helicopter shots, winged serpent point of view shots as he goes hunting through the city. Actually, she goes hunting through the city because where's the husband of Q that helped create the giant egg? Sequel, we need to find out where the husband is. They actually have one helicopter shot where they go between the twin towers of the World Trade Center. Larry apparently will just order anything he wants. Monster at the top of the Chrysler building, fly that sucker between the towers, let's party, all right? Time for the stunning conclusion to the monster movie, cop movie, religious horror movie, Q, the Winged Serpent, from the mind of Larry
This episode
Cohen.
moved kind of fast.
And by the way, there were so many pigeons in the top of the Chrysler building that they needed a pigeon wrangler to match shots. That's not something you want to tell your parents about when you go home for Christmas. That's wonderful, son. We knew you would make it in motion pictures. What's your title? Pigeon Wrangler. Oh.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the end of Q, the Winged Serpent. This is after the end credits. Joe Bob with the final review.
They actually did fire automatic weapons from the roof of the Chrysler building, ejecting the shells onto the people walking down 42nd Street. The man will do anything, including put an undercover mime into the story in the last act for no apparent reason. And what's with the building that has the original model for the Statue of Liberty on its roof? Can that be right? Wouldn't the original model for the Statue of Liberty be in France? And last but not least, why did they kill the priest 5 times? I think it's because Larry can't stand an ordinary kill scene. There's got to be something excessive about it. So because of the way this movie happened, with Larry Cohen putting it together last minute and just going for a guerrilla shoot, he didn't build the monster until the shooting was finished. So he goes back to LA and he hires 2 guys to do this claymation monster. And the first question is, okay, where's the script? We'll tell you where to leave space in the script for the creature. And he said, no, you don't understand. We already shot the movie. You have to build something we can stick in the movie, and which you never do. And somehow it works. In fact, it works so well, the story got ripped off at least twice. Once in that Godzilla remake. Watch that thing. It's the same movie. And again in 2006 with that South Korean movie, The Host. All right. Coming up next, for those of you watching tonight in 3D, you might not survive the next movie. The best flick about murderous Beverly Hills sex orgies ever made. We're going to get it started right after the break. And speaking of Beverly Hills sex orgies, Darcy the Mail Girl is on her way out.
Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Darcy.
What does that mean?
Mrs. Letters. It means letters, communications.
I meant the part about sex orgies.
Well, don't you live in Beverly Hills?
No, I'm like Beverly Hills adjacent.
Well, you live in one of those trendy West LA frou-frou cities where it costs $50 to park at the sex orgy.
Are you done?
Just trying to live vicariously through your wild playgirl lifestyle.
Oh, well, in that case, you're really going to love this letter. It's about bikini barbecues.
Bikini? Oh, I know what that is.
It's from George Hook of Chicago.
Hi, Joe Bob. In answer to your recent rant about beauty pageants, that was the movie where I was talking about how they eliminated the swimsuit competition in Miss America. In answer to that, I pointed you to the Houston, Texas cheerleaders BBQ bikini party. And I've heard of that. I know about that, George. That's where the cheerleaders have a pool party. No men are ever invited right before the football season starts. And there are always some amazing photos that come out of that party. Well, wouldn't you know it, that was the final straw that led to the firing of their fascist cheer coach of 17 years. 5 former cheerleaders are suing the football team for a variety of sordid reasons, including body shaming and minimum wage pay scales. I didn't know about this. Body shaming with those bodies. How is it possible? This is fallout from the barbecue bikini party. The barbecue bikini party is a great Texas tradition.
The barbecue bikini party is a great Texas tradition, especially in Houston. One thing I do want to add, I actually was friends with somebody who dated a Buffalo Jill, the cheerleaders here for the Buffalo Bill. She was just a lovely person in general. I do want to mention that I do believe that cheerleaders in general in the NFL go above and beyond for what they are required to do. They're constantly doing charity work. They're constantly just going out and doing stuff for free and not really getting paid for it. I think the cheerleaders of the NFL need to have a higher salary than some of these fucking referees, all right? Because every time I watch a Buffalo Bills game, the referees want to fucking throw flags around like it's a goddamn flag party and just fucking penalty us the entire game. But you know who's actually entertaining the people out there? You know who's actually working for the money? The cheerleaders, the Buffalo Jills.
I can't believe it. I feel bothered because I followed their tweets. I thought they were funny and alluring, but it's charged they were forced to do their tweeting at ungodly hours. Constantly, all the team I shouldn't be laughing because there's, obviously people are pissed. Consequently, all the team-sponsored individual Twitter accounts have been mysteriously halted. A real interesting story, don't you think? It's leading to calls for all NFL teams to nuke the cheerleader squads. Ciao, George Hook of Chicago. Wow. What do you think about this? Everybody melting down over the cheerleaders throwing a party.
It's so silly.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that should never be tolerated, though. Forced tweeting. If it's true that these girls were forced to tweet at ungodly hours, then I'm all in favor of their enforcing their civil rights in a court of law.
I went to the Carolina Panthers cheer clinic, and they didn't force us to tweet.
You're just full of surprises. What did they make you do at the Carolina Panthers cheerleading clinic?
Mostly dancing in really difficult positions, but yeah, I'm good at that.
Well, you're good at tweeting too, but you didn't make the squad?
The actual tryouts are later this year. I just went to the clinic to check it out.
Well, good luck at betraying this show, because you would have to do cheerleading all the time, right? And betraying the New England Patriots, because aren't you a big Tom Brady fan?
I go both ways.
All right. I tell you what, I'm gonna miss that damn barbecue in Houston. Have you ever been to a poolside all bikini barbecue party?
I've been to similar events.
How similar?
We didn't have bikinis.
You're gonna say that, and you're just gonna leave me hanging? Were you forced to tweet? Was it like a BDSM thing? You never know what the male girl is really thinking. All right, let's go to the break. How are you guys holding up? Okay, I tried to work clean last week, and it didn't work. So we hadn't had a Catholic joke in a while. So, did you know that Pope Francis was not the first choice of the College of Cardinals? The guy they really wanted was Cardinal Hans Grapje. And not many people have heard of Hans Grapje. He was educated in The Hague. And when he was young, he wanted to be a priest, but he got drafted into the army instead, and he became a B-17 pilot. And he got shot down in 1943, and he lost his left arm. And after the war, he did become a priest, and he went to Africa as a missionary, and he piloted his own plane to get to the remote villages. But in 1997, he was serving in Zimbabwe, and there was an explosion in a silver mine, and it caused a cave-in. And Archbishop Grapje went down into the mine to administer last rites, and a shaft collapsed, and he was buried for 3 days, and he lost his right eye. And also the high silver content in the mine gave him a condition called purpura, which is where your skin breaks out in purple blotches. So even though Cardinal Grapje devoted his whole life to God, as a scholar, a mentor, a holy man, the Cardinals, when they finally met, decided that the church would never accept a one-eyed, one-armed, flying purple papal leader. Oh, no. Had to go a long way to get that right. Plus, you have to know that song. Okay, we're going to go back to the raunchy ones next week. Had to go a long way to get that right. Plus, you have to know that song. Okay, we're going to go back to the raunchy ones next week.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. The next watch along here, episode 4, is going to be on a movie called Society. We will take a 1.5, about a 2-minute break. We'll be right back. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And we will begin shortly. All right, ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves, we are ready to begin with episode 4 here on the Last Drive-In with Joe Bob, season 4, 2019. Got myself a little treat, little Airheads taffy. This is the blue raspberry flavor. I love Airheads. Very good candy. You gotta have some kind of candy when you're watching drive-in movies, right? Let's carry on.
Well, we're about to watch one of the best movies ever made about disgusting, filthy rich people having sex orgies in Beverly Hills. Darcy, you know about that, don't you?
Maybe a little.
You've been to the Playboy Mansion back when Hugh Hefner was still alive and he was still having sex when he was 123 years old, right?
I have.
Okay. Thanks for your honesty, Darcy. It relates to this movie because you've seen this stuff in real life, right?
Like the stuff in society?
Yeah, in society.
No.
Well, for those of us who have never been invited to the Playboy Mansion, have you actually witnessed flesh piles like the ones in this movie we're about to watch?
Yes, like so many. There's flesh piles everywhere, just like this.
I never know when you're putting me on. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Darcy the Mail Girl will be taking your tweets and your emails and whatever all night long, so get in touch, especially if you have first-hand California orgy information, because we're going deep into the secret pervert fetish underbelly of naked all-night house party sex clubs that take it just a little too far. I'm not going to give it away, but most of you already know that I'm talking about Society, the 1989 movie that even Germany thought this was a little extreme. And as we all know, you can buy leather-clad stud boys in the airport gift shop in Germany, so it's hard to shock those people. Anyway, a couple of reasons we're doing this. One is that the movie is way underrated. It just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth when it was first released here, only to be absolutely worshipped over in Europe when it opened over there. And the second reason is that the country is kind of going through one of our periodic Puritan phases where you're not supposed to have weird sex. You know what happens when you tell people that you can't have weird sex? They get an uncontrollable urge to have even weirder sex, right? Anyway, this is like a sign of the times. You know that company, Under Armour. You know the company Under Armour? They make all the cool workout gear and yoga pants and whatever, sports apparel. They have a hipster corporate headquarters. It's right there in Baltimore Harbor. They're like the sports clothing version of working for Google, right? Well, they just passed this new policy. They don't want their people having business lunches at strip clubs anymore. Actually, that's not what they said.
Can't have no business lunch at the strip clubs.
No more charging visits to strip clubs on the corporate credit card. Now, this is a company that's got to go out and get big-name sports endorsements, right? So what they're saying is that if you're hanging out with, say, Ben Roethlisberger or Steph Curry, and the words, let's go hit a few titty bars come up in casual conversation, there's no reason not to splurge on some lap dances in the VIP room, just so long as you don't put it on the corporate card. You know, back in the Bronze Age, decades ago, when I was briefly involved with the broadcast radio business, almost every business meeting was at a strip club, or in the parlance of the day,
can't use the corporate card's money for the lap dance.
Strippers. They were always called dancers. Sometimes they were called exotic dancers. And some of them, like the legendary Cabaret Royale, it was just off Stemmons Freeway in Dallas. They were so elaborate there. They had actual choreographed stage shows like the old days of burlesque, but much better costumes. But hot girls from all over the country would fly in just to work at Cabaret Royale for a couple of days, or even just one night when certain conventions were in town. Like anything involving oil field technology, that was considered a bonanza for G-string girls. You know, guys who sell drill bits, any kind of rigid tool, if you know what I mean. I think you do. Okay, here's my point. There was always a female who was in on it. She was in on the let's take 4 guys to a strip club and close this business deal strategy. And she was usually the head of it. If I could describe the type, she was like 35, slender. She knew how to wear a business suit that had one too many buttons undone on the blouse. She could match 6-inch heels to any outfit. She knew how to cuss just the right amount. She knew which fruity cocktails could be sipped all afternoon, and she knew how to laugh at all the men's jokes. Now, she never slept with the clients, but she just flirted with them outrageously, and she paid for lap dances, and she put them on the corporate card, and her sales numbers were always the best in the shop. But here's the other thing about the saleswoman who was just one of the guys. She had enormous respect for those strippers. She always had ongoing deals with the ones she trusted. She knew which ones were the savvy types that could close deals. She cultivated friendships with them. She made sure they saw her when she walked into the club, so they'd come over to the table. And then after the men tipped badly, she would tip the girls well. She considered them soul sisters, you know, women who were smarter than men. Now, I'm bringing this up because the official reason for the new corporate policy at Under Armour is that the old way of doing business is demeaning to women. The strippers probably would not agree. I mean, there was a time, I don't know, the 50s, the 60s, when strippers were treated like slaves at sleazy beer joints and expected to perform backroom sex acts. And yes, there are still low-end dive joints where working girls get ripped off by the management and the DJ and the bouncer and the so-called house mom who manages the dressing room. But it's 2019, people. Most women who work those high-end clubs are extremely skilled at what they do, even if they're just doing it for a couple of years to get through college. And much of the clientele is couples and females. So, in my opinion, now, please don't kill me for this. Please don't kill me. Taking a client to a strip club is not that different from taking a client to Cirque du Soleil. Okay? Both are weird fantasies that are not for everybody. You don't go to Cirque du Soleil unless the person you're with is predisposed to like French Canadian acrobats in chiffon. And you don't go to a strip club unless the person you're with is predisposed to like women in thongs and leopard skin moving through the room like cats in heat. If you suggest the strip club and the guy says, no, you know what, I'd rather go to the Timberwolves game, then you don't go to the strip club, okay? To say it's demeaning to women is to say that all those women that do it are somehow anti-woman. And since I've known a few of them, I can tell you with assurance they tend to be pretty serious feminists. I'm going to get my feminist terminology wrong, but I think they're so-called third-wave feminists, meaning they think nudity and sex work, and especially stripping, is empowering. So Darcy has been looking over here at me. Is there anything wrong here in what I'm saying? Is there? I mean, anyway, so the strippers know every detail of their business, including how to position a bunch of $20 bills in your garter so it looks like 100 guys have already tipped you.
Good tip.
Yeah. And they're such good listeners that after 10 minutes with a guy, they can tell you most of his life story and all of his fetishes, and some of them are better than others at the dancing.
Joe Bob said we're going to get a little raunchy.
Makeup, hair, costumes, you know, better than Sephora or Tony and Guy or any of those places. And they remind me of exploitation film producers because they have a list of high concept moves, high concept lines, things that always work, and they milk those for the big tips. So you could make the argument that banning the strip clubs from the corporate credit card is actually demeaning to women. That's what's demeaning to women, because what you're really saying is these guys that play for the Timberwolves are real entertainers, and these girls that dance at Spearmint Rhino are just strippers. So how very 1955 of you, Under Armour. Now, was that sexist, Darcy, what I just said? Are you a third-wave feminist?
I am indeed.
Okay, well, the basic message of that rant was be kind to your stripper. Okay.
Be kind to your stripper.
Right, we'll see what she really thinks later. But meanwhile,
famous words from Joe Bob Briggs.
Ever made about carnivorous underground sex cults disguised as nuclear families and lawyers. And I can't really say much about it without ruining it for first timers. So I'll just say that it involves shunting. You guys know what shunting is? Darcy knows. You've shunted, haven't you?
Probably.
Was shunting invented just for this movie? Or is shunting really a thing? Is there a thing called shunting?
I know you're all about it, so let's just go ahead and say it's a real thing.
Okay. We're taking the express train to Nasty Town tonight. Let's take a look at those drive-in totals.
We're getting raunchy on episode 4.
10 breaths.
10 breaths.
Fights, 2 motor vehicle crashes. 1 fat zombie. Butcher knife creeping. 1 literal butthead. 1 double death orgy, monster tongue licking, flesh eating, flesh melding, self-devouring, fisticuffs, fisty butts.
Fisty butts.
Involuntary tranquilizer injections, multiple aardvarking in multiple combinations, meaning threesomes, foursomes, sevensomes, 9.5somes, and 2 slimy detelsomes, naked action figure brain impalement, voodoo shrunken head, projectile suntan lotion attack, wire neck restraint, dead cheek cracking, IV ripping, eyeballs roll, kung fu, wormy apple foo, writhing dog pile foo, swimming pool foo, hand vomit foo, paramedic foo, incest foo, double incest foo, double reverse incest foo, mush maggot goo foo.
Double reverse incest foo.
Drive-in Academy Award
Mush maggot go foo.
for Billy Warlock as the confused son of an orgiastic Beverly Hills family. You're Billy Warlock?
I am.
Okay, Ben Slack as the slimy therapist who keeps saying, that's perfectly normal. Patrice Jennings as the sister in the pink prom dress with a pulsating spinal column who does things in the shower that no brother wants to see. Charles Lucia as the weird-beard worm-farming dad who says, first we dine, then copulation. Devin DeVasquez as Clarissa the Dream Girl who says, want to go get soaked? Heidi Kozak as Shauna, the pissed-off cheerleader girlfriend. Rick Fry and Woody Keith, the writers, for the line, the hotter and wetter you get, the more you can do. Ben Meyerson as the obnoxious country club boy Ted. David Wiley as Judge Carter for saying, I do love the smell of the hunt. Screaming Mad George for some of the most disgusting makeup design in the history of Tom Savini.
Screaming Mad
Brian
George.
Usna, the director, for making a movie that's part John Hughes high school drama, part Forensic Files murder mystery, and part torture porn. 4 stars. Joe Bob says,
4 stars.
check it out.
Joe Bob recommends it.
And I was just kidding. I know what shunting is. It's a railroad term, right? It means when you're sorting out the rolling stock on the train, you're putting the cars together on the train, you're taking the train apart, whatever. That would be de-shunting. You shunt the train onto a siding.
Really?
Yeah. I'm kidding, actually. That's not what it is. A shunt is a medical tube that they stick in your brain, and it drains the fluid off to some other place. It's like siphoning gas out of a car. That's a shunt. It's called shunting.
Is that one true?
Not really. Shunt. Shunt refers to a type of house. Actually, it's like a shunting house. It's a real estate term. It means the house could be used as a family home or a holiday house or a bed and breakfast property. No, what it is, I'm not kidding this time. Shunting is something that happens in electrical circuits. It's where you lose power because you got too many welding spots on the connectors. That's what shunting.
I'm not sure if I
Really?
can believe you.
See, we don't get it because it's one of those Brit words, or maybe a Scottish word. I give you mum a fine shunting last night, I did, mate. Or I guess that would be Australian if you say mate, Australian,
You're so Australian now.
Have you been to a shunt? You haven't been. Have you
I've been to all
shunted?
shunting. I love shunting. Shunting like 24/7.
Did anybody shunt Hugh Hefner?
All the time. He lives for shunting.
Nobody ever asked me to shunt.
Aw.
All right. Episode 4. Movie review on Society. Joe Bob. After the segment break.
As we know from all the previous horror movies in the 1980s, whenever a Playboy Playmate type girl comes onto you at the beach, or the hottest girl in the high school class sits on the front row of the assembly so she can spread her legs and distract you, somebody is trying to kill you, right? What's interesting about this movie is that Billy, played by Billy Warlock, actually knows this. He's one of the smarter horror protagonists that we've ever seen. Billy was starring on Baywatch when this movie came out, and so he was accustomed to hanging around with babes on the beach, notably his co-star, Erica Eleniak. But Devin DeVasquez, who plays the brunette bombshell, was an actual Playboy Playmate. She was Miss June 1985, and she was the cover girl in November 1986. So she was a double whammy Playmate, plus she won Star Search in 1986. And she was dating Sylvester Stallone while they were shooting the movie. The credit we all remember her for, though, was spokesmodel for the Eugenia twist top bikini. That was one of the most amazing twist tops ever made. I own one myself. Devin would also date Prince. Devin was popular in the 80s, but she eventually married Ron Moss. Does anybody remember Ron? He was the star of a bunch of Andy Sedaris movies, and the only one Devin was in was Guns. So I'm guessing that's where they met, on that Andy Sedaris set. Anyhow, Billy Warlock, the star of the movie, is a soap opera guy. He was on 5 different soap operas before he got cast in Baywatch. And actually, this movie was already completed when he started on Baywatch, but it had not yet been released, and that may explain why it did so well in Europe, because they love this movie in England, France, Germany, but then they love Baywatch in England, France, and Germany, even today. But for whatever reason, Society was a total flop in the U.S. Nobody saw it, came and went really fast, because America wasn't ready for a story about upper-class snobs who have a secret sex organization in Beverly Hills. That's what Brian Usna says. When you ask him, why didn't the movie do so well, Brian? That's the explanation Brian gives. Brian, I think the world is always ready for stories about secret sex organizations, no matter whether it's the U.S. or Saudi Arabia. So I kind of question that analysis for the failure of the movie. Anyway, our hero has just learned that his sister is apparently being passed around like a Thanksgiving turkey at a sex party, but he takes the only evidence of that situation and gives it to a psychotherapist that we already know from a previous scene he does not trust. Whoops! Maybe Billy's not so smart after all. Okay, first we dine, then copulation. That's the proper order. You don't want to copulate on an empty stomach. According to this movie, back to the movie. I don't really own a Eugenia twist-top bikini, although I might look good in one. What is that thing where women try to get you to dress in drag or explore your feminine side? You know, they love that, right? Joe Bob, I want to paint your nails purple. What? Why? Who are you?
Who are you?
You're laughing at me, Joe Bob, but eventually you will let me paint your nails. No, I won't. You know, what is that? Who started that? Where did you grow up? You know, I know you want to wear my bra, Joe Bob. Fuck no, I don't want to, even though I would look good in it.
Keeping it raunchy, chat. We're keeping it raunchy for episode 4. Next segment break, 38 minutes.
So Brian Usna directed this movie. Brian Usna, better known as a producer than a director, mainly because he was the driving force behind Reanimator. That was his first movie. And then From Beyond, the next year, both of those starred Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton and were directed by Stuart Gordon. And so what happened next is Usna and Gordon were going to break into the big time. They got the assignment for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which was in development at Disney. So Usna and Gordon wrote the script for that movie together. And the plan was that Stuart Gordon was going to direct it and Usna was going to produce it. And they went down to Mexico to start planning the production. But Stuart Gordon got sick, which happens in Mexico. And he was so sick that he had to quit the job. And when he quit the job, Disney fired Brian Usna too. So Usna decides no more big studio movies. I'm only going to do stuff I can control. And he starts working on a project with Dan O'Bannon of Return of the Living Dead fame. And that project was called The Men. And the premise was that all the women of the world discovered that all the men of the world are an alien race. So it was a pretty good premise. But that project kept having setback after setback, and they could never get the funding. And so Ricky Fry and Woody Keith show up with this script, Society. And Woody Keith had grown up in Beverly Hills, and he believed that many of the people were an alien race in Beverly Hills. And so they kind of put the Dan O'Bannon idea into the Society script. And Viola, here we are. This was in the days when the Japanese were trying to take over Hollywood. Who's taking over Hollywood this year? Somebody's always trying to take over Hollywood. And so Brian Usna pretty quickly found $2 million in Japanese money that he rolled into this project, and they started casting and shooting. Now, normally I would go into the whole long story of where Brian Usna comes from and how he got to Hollywood and all that, but I already told that story when we showed Reanimator, and I would bore myself if I told it again. So I guess in this case, the people must suffer. All right. Back to the movie.
Disney is really trying to take over Hollywood at this point. I mean, Disney is trying to control fucking everything now.
Actually, the underrated amphibious creature of the deep. The greatest movie ever made in the North Sumatran Sea. There have been plenty of South Sumatran Sea creature features, you know. But Brian, he went that extra mile. He went to the North Sumatran Sea. How many know their Indonesian geography? Show of hands.
Don't you remember when Disney was just strictly focused on animation? When it was Disney trying to be the best animation group of all time? And then I grew up during the Disney Pixar era, and I loved many Pixar films such as Toy Story, Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo. I would say probably some of my favorite Disney films are like Peter Pan for sure. I love Peter Pan. And Pirates of the Caribbean, I'm really big on too. But now they just control so much from fucking Star Wars to Marvel to even The Simpsons. I mean, it's crazy, guys.
See, it was a trick question. The South Sumatran Sea would have to be either the Java Sea or the Indian Ocean, right there where Jakarta is. In other words, there is no South Sumatran Sea. That's why Amphibious Creature of the Deep was filmed in the North Sumatran Sea. They probably had to rent a boat and go through the Strait of Malacca. You should know these things, because Indonesia is the fourth largest country in the world. Barack Obama, he went to grade school there. You know, good coffee. Sumatran coffee, great.
I fucking
You
hate
see why
coffee.
Brian Usna wanted to go there. The only drawback in Indonesia is less orgies. Orgies, you know, orgies are illegal in Indonesia.
Can't
You try
have
to
no
orgy
orgies in
Jakarta, they cut off
Indonesia.
your wang, dude, you know, with a butter knife. They saw it off. They want to hear you scream when they do that. They don't really do that, but it's this movie. This movie makes you just go places you don't want to go.
But I fucking hate coffee. I don't drink it at all. I'm a hot chocolate kind of guy. And you guys have even seen here, I mean, I'm not drinking coffee out of my Coca-Cola cup. I'm drinking Coca-Cola. One thing I've always hated is when people say, well, I need coffee to wake up in the morning. Bitch, you're already waking up. You are already up. God wouldn't have woken you up if you needed coffee. And if anybody knows me out there, you know my favorite Hollywood studio of all time. If you know me personally, you would know that my favorite Hollywood studio is Warner Brothers, WB. Next segment break, 49 minutes. Just before we get started with this next segment break as well, I would love to also see Universal Studios one day. I love Universal Studios. I've always wanted because they turn the literal movie sets and warehouses, all of the studio sets into actual houses that you can walk through, like the horror mazes, like down here in Buffalo. I guess you would call them like not like haunted houses, but just more like a horror house, like something you can walk through and experience. But over there in Universal Studios, they have actual, quality because it's the actual stuff that they're using in their films and whatnot.
One of the great lines in horror history: cream, sugar, or do you want me to pee in it? I think the soft porn music when Billy Warlock and Evan Vasquez are making out on the bed is meant to be ironic. I hope it is anyway. And as to Clarissa's mom, I'm not sure exactly what her story is, and I'm fairly confident in saying that even after the movie's over, none of us will be sure exactly what her story is. But that's Pamela Matheson in that role. She's known for this movie and Police Academy 2, and that's about it. She kind of reminds me of a B-movie version of Divine, the great drag queen from the John Waters films. Actually, Divine was a B-movie version of a drag queen, so I guess Pamela Matheson would be a C-movie version of a B-movie star. Anyhow, there's way too much plot getting in the way of the story right now, so I will amuse you with some society trivia. I'm only doing this because I get these emails saying, I love all the little tidbits, Joe Bob, all the little weird stuff you find out about the movie, the tidbits. I don't really think of them as tidbits, but that's what people say. So Brian Usna, he also directed Rottweiler, Beyond Reanimator, The Dentist, the sequel to The Dentist. The Dentist may be his best movie as a director, in my opinion. Faust, Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, which is pretty good, even though it's no Silent Night, Deadly Night 3, but still pretty good because it has Clint Howard in it. Darcy is with me here tonight because for her expertise on orgies, but she's also the world's biggest Clint Howard fan. Didn't you actually stalk Clint Howard?
Oh, heck yeah. I stalked him until he gave me an interview. It was like the greatest interview ever.
Darcy the Mail Girl, ladies and gentlemen, the world's foremost expert on Clint Howard. And my favorite Clint Howard.
The lovely Darcy the Mail Girl, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause for Darcy.
Evil Speak.
Ooh, that's a good one.
What do you think is the best Clint Howard movie?
Ice Cream Man.
Really? Okay. You know why I'm asking you so many questions tonight, right?
Orgies.
Because the orgy's coming up, right? And I want inside information on LA orgies.
Whatever you want to know, Joe Bob.
Okay. Brian Usna produced also From Beyond, Dolls, Silent Night, Deadly Night, 5, Necronomicon, Dagon. Is Silent Night, Deadly Night 5 any good?
Are you saying you've never seen it?
Maybe I saw it. No, it's possible. But if I saw it, I don't remember it.
The best sequel is 3.
You're confident about that?
Yeah, because Bill Moseley bonus points.
More than Clint Howard?
Okay, well, I'm biased, so like 4 is my favorite, but I feel like most people would say 3 is the best.
Okay. Billy Warlock trivia.
Yay.
You're a Billy Warlock fan too.
I mean, I like great actors.
Okay, well, he was in Halloween 2 as Craig. Now, you won't remember him because he has 22nd billing in Halloween 2, but his dad was also in Halloween 2, Dick Warlock, famous Hollywood stuntman. He played Michael Myers in Halloween 2. That's a good tidbit.
There you go, ladies
Devin
and gentlemen.
Vasquez. Devin is from Baton Rouge. She went to LSU. Her father was from Madrid. Her mother is Irish. She was the Virgin in House 2. She was also in Low Down Dirty Shame and Busted. Heidi Kozak as the bitch girlfriend Shauna, graduate of the USC drama program, regular on Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, fairly prominent role in Slumber Party Massacre 2, does a lot of charity work in LA. You're a big fan of Slumber Party Massacre 2. I don't think she acts anymore. Ben Slack as the psychotherapist, guy from Baltimore, hundreds of roles for him. He's no longer with us. He died in 2004. So that's enough tidbits. Let's get back to the movie and find out why these people are so weird, even by LA standards. So roll it. Okay, I have one orgy question in advance.
Okay.
In any given typical LA orgy, do you have gay, straight, bisexual, trisexual, quattrosexual, indeterminate gender, transvestite, and bearded ladies all in one big flesh pile?
All the time.
Or do they separate out into 37 genders and fetishes? And do they wear name tags?
You want an honest answer to that?
You can wear name tags anyway because they're naked, right?
Exactly.
So unless you're a piercing fetishist, then you could run a name tag pin through your nipple. I'm only asking because the movie is about to get really, really perverted. And we like that here at Last Drive-In.
Like perverted here at the Last Drive-In. Ladies and gentlemen, ghosts and goblins, witches and wizards, vampires and werewolves. Next segment break an hour and 2 into the movie Society.
Billy Warlock, the guy playing Billy, said he often had no idea what was going on in the story while they were making the movie. Because, you know, movies are shot out of sequence. Sometimes you shoot the ending first and then you pick up scenes wherever you can, depending on what locations you have that day. And so he had trouble understanding the plot. And Brian Usna's answer to that was, it doesn't matter, Billy. And I guess it doesn't, because all these years later, I don't understand the plot either. And I've watched it several times. Like Milo, the best friend, didn't he just confess to about the weirdest thing I've ever heard? Namely that it was him who put the shrunken head in Billy's locker and the blow-up party doll in the front seat of the Jeep that has bitch written on it. Is there a gay thing going on here? Because that's pissed off boyfriend behavior there. And how come when Billy discovers the dead body, he runs off into the woods instead of going to his perfectly well-running Jeep? And how does he just happen to end up at Clarissa's house? And why do they sleep in the car that's not the car? Okay, well, Darcy, you just can't wait for the orgy scene, right?
Dude, you know how I love my orgies.
Okay, well, the whole thing is about the orgy scene. So let's hustle. Let's go back to the film. Let's see some aardvarking. I want to see some big league aardvarking. They've set us up for it. Let's start checking in at that condom counter.
Joe Bob wants to see some shunting.
Roll it. What's the most people you ever saw in one orgy?
I don't usually count that sort of thing.
Do you ever touch something and you don't know what body part it is or whose it is or what gender it is? Or because that would be kind of gross.
Yeah, you do, actually.
Actually, that's kind of what's going to happen in this movie.
Based on real life.
All right, next segment break, an hour and 14 into the movie Society.
Okay, it's all about good breeding. And I think they're about to breed. By the way, you notice the name of Billy's family is Whitney? Bill's father is Jim Whitney, sister is Jenny Whitney. What's the mother's name? I don't remember. Because anyway, that's because the Whitney Mansion in the movie is the actual Wrigley Mansion in Pasadena, one of the homes on Millionaires Row on South Orange Grove Boulevard, which is actually the headquarters for the Tournament of Roses, the Rose Parade and the Rose Bowl, because the Wrigley family gave it to the city in 1958. Now, the Wrigleys, those are the Wrigleys from Chicago of chewing gum fame, but for some reason, they're just all over Southern California. So the story is set in Beverly Hills, but they used a house in Pasadena because houses in Pasadena are bigger, because that's the really old money of California. So do you realize how many movies were made in the 80s about rich people eating poor people? Eating Raoul, Parents, Eat the Rich, The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, cannibalism and rich people. It seems to go together. But be careful what you think here, because this is not exactly cannibalism. As they just told Billy while he was twitching in his twitch, the rich are actually an alien species. And I would agree with that. When I say twitching in his twitch, that pole with the looped rope on the end of it, that's called a twitch, which I know from working on the horse ranches in Lexington when I was a teenager, because we use those things to control the horses. You put the twitch on their lip, and they get confused, and they remain still while you do various disgusting medical things to the horse. Anyway, the rich are an alien species is the premise here.
The rich are an alien species in society.
Hemingway, Fitzgerald says, the rich are different from us. And Hemingway says, yeah, they have more money. And then Brian Hughes now adds, yeah, and they have more heads, legs, and arms than us too, because it's time for the shunting. We're about to get really, really disgusting, thanks to the special effects work of Screaming Mad George. So
Screaming Mad George with the special effects in society.
I wonder what the executive committee of the Tournament of Roses thinks about this movie. I wonder if they knew what they were making when they gave them the permission to shoot there. I wonder if people walk into the building and they say, hey, which room was the big alien orgy? It must have been messy. Because in the Tournament of Roses, like the biggest society event in California, there's nothing higher than that. That's like the Metropolitan Opera Gala in New York. So let's test it. Let's go to Pasadena, walk in there and say, hey, we heard society was based on real events. That Whitney family, man, were they kinky. And then when they kick us out, we can yell, let the shunting begin, let the shunting begin. Because Pasadena is kind of snooty. It's the snootiest part of LA. They're like, we are not Los Angeles. We are Pasadena. Yeah, we get that. But where you have a mansion, you have some kinky sex, right? We know this from true crime shows on Discovery ID. Mansions have way too many rooms where you can get away with, BDSM and more extreme things than that, like LMNOP and whatever. And in the case of this movie, you would need the Chinese alphabet. You would need about 73 letters for this stuff. They actually don't even have enough letters in the alphabet for this kind of sex. You would need Sanskrit symbols used only for bizarre sex acts. This is why Americans love mansions.
If you ever go to Pasadena, California, ladies and gentlemen, ask them about where was the rich orgy alien sex party. Next segment break, an hour and 22 minutes. Pasadena got a lot of rich
it looks like we're
orgy sex parties, apparently.
Fisting, aren't we? But first, I would just like to say, having people in formal wear getting out of limos in order to have extreme alien sex with captive poor people, actually, it could be extreme alien sex or alien extreme sex, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. The whole premise of this stuff is genius, because in the middle of the shunting, which is what the flesh pile is called, Ted is awarded an internship in Washington. It's almost like they're playing golf, and then they're doing business while they're playing golf. And then we have the Blue Danube Waltz playing while everything is going on. And to top it all off, we have old men in their underwear chomping on cigars and standing around waiting their turn. So when Judge Carter's fist, and by the way, Judge Carter is played by the veteran character actor David Wiley. You got to give the guy credit just for accepting this job, right? When Judge Carter's fist goes up inside Blanchard. Look, the goal of fisting, all right, I can't believe we're talking about this. The goal of fisting is to get your entire hand into the interior of somebody's body, hence the name. And so you could call this sort of the ultimate sexual fetish, so advanced it's practiced by aliens, otherwise known as members of Riviera Country Club in Pacific Palisades. Isn't that the place where the filthy rich go to play golf and sip the $40 cocktails? If you were going to look for an alien race disguised in tuxedos, that's where you would go, Pacific Palisades. All right, what's interesting about the shunting scene, though, and once again, we don't know exactly what shunting means, but that's what they're doing here. And by the way, it's not over. It's only getting started. You are not safe. Don't think you're safe. The shunting scene was filmed in one day at GMT Studios in Culver City because they didn't have the money to make those special effects work longer than one day. And those special effects are the work of Screaming Mad George, who is a Japanese guy. Of course he is.
Screaming Mad George is Japanese.
Screaming Mad George.
Effects.
And his favorite artist is Salvador Dali. He also worked on Poltergeist 2, Fright Night, Predator, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4, but this is obviously his masterpiece. But you know what's the most disturbing thing about the shunting scene? The screenwriter, Woody Keith, grew up in Beverly Hills, and he says all these people are based on people he knew in real life. Whoa, okay, there's scary, and then there's really, really scary. Back to the disgustingly original, over-the-top conclusion to Society.
This is it, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the end of the episode.
If you went to Osaka, just a theory, if you went to Osaka and paid a hooker like $20,000, you could probably role play this stuff. You know, they would slime you and do up your head, let you have sex with a two-headed, four-legged creature. That would, you know, they love cosplay over there. They can carry it off. They have hooker special effects crews.
The Japanese love cosplays.
Pay them enough money, they go Andrew Lloyd Webber on your ass. They have Cirque du Soleil acrobats climbing out of orifices in your body. You can really recreate this. Just a tourism tip.
All right, and now, next segment break after the end credits.
Long-ass credits. Okay, so how exactly did they escape, and why are they taking Clarissa with them? Is that an interspecies love affair or something? What happened to Clarissa's mom? Did I miss that part? And why does Clarissa's mom eat hair? Charlie Line, who writes for The Guardian, says that is one of the greatest movie endings in history. Right up there with The Sixth Sense and Citizen Kane. But we don't have to take him that seriously because he also puts the ending of Pirates of the Caribbean 3 on that list. Anyway, it seemed really, really hard to get away from the flesh pile aliens until that last scene. Apparently, if you stick your hand up Ted's butt and turn him into green gooey maggots, or did he stick his hand up his penis? I wasn't clear on the body horror geography in that last fight scene. And shouldn't we know in advance that that's the Achilles heel of the aliens? They expect us to just go, oh, right, they should have thought of that before. Just do a full body internal fist on the guy and he'll disintegrate. How would we know that? Anyhow, normally we would call up Felissa Rose and ask her about Ted's dick. But we've got Darcy the mail girl with us. And come on over, Darcy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Darcy the lovely mail girl.
Oh, it's Devin Damascus. It's Clarissa. It's
Here to explain it all.
Clarissa. Oh, wow. You put on too many clothes, Darcy.
I mean, it's better.
I wanted to pick your brain about orgy etiquette.
All right.
You've been to Beverly Hills orgies.
Maybe.
How close does this movie come to being a documentary?
Closer than you might think.
In other words, you've seen flesh piles like that.
I've seen similar people doing similar things.
What do you think of the movie?
I love this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you think of the ending?
It's freaking rad.
Okay, well, it was a huge flop in the United States, but it was popular in the United Kingdom, France, Germany.
Flopped in the United States, but was popular overseas.
We just lost our blow-up party dolls. You went old school with the party doll. It was wildly popular, partly because of satire about the upper classes. I mean, is there any place today where they still have parties like this?
Prague.
Prague?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that?
I know that.
Okay, we won't go any further with that. But I'm really pleased with your cosplay tonight. And are you getting comments? You must be getting comments on your cosplay.
Actually, most of the comments today are about your shirt.
They are not.
They are.
Not when you're walking around like this.
I swear.
All right.
The lovely
Let's go to
Darcy
the old
looking very
drive-in
sexy
mailbag.
in
What
this
do you got?
episode.
Oh, okay. I like to know the answer to this one myself. It's from Keith Connor of Oakland, California.
Joe Bob
Okay.
gonna read the mail.
Keith Connor. I love you. You changed my life and got me through some tough times growing up. Since I'm likely writing to someone that's not you, I'll shut up soon. Why do they always say that?
Because I'm here and they think I'm reading the letters.
Because you are reading the letters, right?
Well, yeah, that's my mail girl duty.
Okay, but I read them too, though. But really, you were great on Shudder this past weekend. I don't know what weekend he's talking about. And you should stop living on the dole and get a job and do a show regularly again. That government cheese can't taste too good. So he thinks I'm too busy to read my own mail. I have people that read my mail, but I'm living on welfare. All right. Anyway, this is probably a common question. What's the story with Joe Bob Goes to the Drive-In and Joe Bob Goes Back to the Drive-In? That's my book, two of my books. I'm dying to read these, and lots of people seem to think they're great, but I only see them online at exorbitant prices. Is there any way to get an affordable copy, or is there a chance they'll ever be reprinted? I'm guessing the likely answer is that they're owned by some publisher that isn't as enthusiastic about Joe Bob as the rest of the universe, but I'm desperate and figured I'd ask. Actually, they're owned by me, but they've been out of print for decades. Have a great day. It was wonderful seeing you again, Keith. You bought one of my books.
I did indeed.
Because you were working the merchandise table in what city was that? Where were we?
I think Denver. Yeah.
You know, the first thing you did was you stacked up all the $20 bills on the table instead of putting them in the cash bag. We had like a fan of $20 bills on the table.
I mean, that's what I used to do when I was dancing. It makes you look like you're in demand. That makes me look good.
You told me that, but it's a different concept at the Alamo Drafthouse signing table or whatever. But you bought the book, which made me, look bad because everyone was like, why are you making Darcy buy that book, Joe Bob? Why are you...
I mean, I know what Shudder pays you. It's okay.
Well, okay.
Just saying.
But I don't need your $20 bill. Anyway, what Keith is talking about here is that after the last drive-in marathon last summer,
Shudder ain't paying Joe Bob what he's worth, chat.
Went to like $5,000 on Amazon for the crappy paperbacks. And because they have some kind of algorithm that if everybody's searching for your book on the same day, the price just automatically jacks up. And so I have a few of the second book, Joe Bob Goes Back to the Drive-In. I always haul them to screenings and I sell them. And I also haul around all my other books that nobody ever wants to buy.
You sold one of those?
Because you bought one of those, right? You probably bought one of those too. So I need to get busy and fish out the old contracts and make a new deal with somebody to reprint all the old reviews. Because that's what those books are, the reprints of all my old movie reviews.
You do. I would buy like literally everyone.
Well, by the time I reprinted them all, it won't be $5,000 anymore. They'll be like 5 cents.
That is silly.
No, it's true. They used to be like 1 cent. It'd be like the postage would be $4.95, but the book price would be a penny.
I'm sorry. Those days are over, Joe Bob.
All right. Well, if I sold a $5,000 book, actually, if you told people that like I sell $5,000 books, would they invite me to the Playboy Mansion?
There's no Playboy Mansion anymore.
All right. Would they invite me to some mansion in Hollywood?
I can invite you to a mansion next time you're in LA.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You want to go to the Feld Mansion?
The what?
Corey Feldman's house.
They call Corey Feldman's house the Feld Mansion?
They do indeed.
So you go to the Playboy Mansion, I get Corey Feldman's mansion.
You love it.
Okay, I do trust you, but we're running out of time.
And whose fault is that?
All right, did I ever tell you the one about the Dragon Master and the Queen's breasts?
No, please do.
All right, Michael the Dragon Master was an official in King Arthur's court, and he had a long-standing obsession to touch the Queen's breasts, but he knew that the penalty for that would be death. So one day he reveals his secret desire to his colleague Horatio, who is the king's chief physician. And Horatio says, I can arrange it, but I'll need 1,000 gold coins to pay bribes. So Michael the Dragon Master agrees to the deal. So the next day, Horatio makes up a batch of itching powder, and he pours a little of it into the queen's bra while she's busy taking a bath. She comes out of the bath, she gets dressed, the itching starts, and as the day goes on, it gets more and more intense. So the king calls Horatio to the royal chambers to tell him the queen is having this medical problem, and he needs a solution. So Horatio tells the king that only a special saliva, if applied for 4 hours, will cure this type of itch, and that tests had shown such a saliva was only to be found in the mouth of Michael the Dragon Master. So King Arthur summons Michael the Dragon Master, and he orders him to apply his mouth to the queen's breast. So the Dragon Master slips the antidote lotion into his mouth, and for the next 4 hours, he works passionately on the queen's beautiful breasts. Finally, he's satisfied. He returns to his chamber, and there's Horatio waiting on him, demanding payment of 1,000 gold coins. But Michael has already gotten what he wanted. So he refuses to pay because he knows Horatio will never dare report what happened to the king. So he just tells Horatio to get lost. So the next day, Horatio slips a massive dose of the same itching powder into King Arthur's loincloth.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for episodes 3 and 4 of The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob. It is currently about to be almost 10 a.m. here in Buffalo, New York. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you all have a good rest of your morning, a good day. It is Friday, so we are wearing the Jason shirt. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace, God.